It's Hollie's Hotspurs back with another one. Chatting all things Tottenham, we're second to none. Special guests every time, if it's win, lose or draw. The passion is high like Harry Kane when he scores. Or when Lloris makes a world-class save. We got Højbjerg running the mid every game. Settle down, stick around, share your thoughts with the panel. And make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Coys.
Hello and welcome to another Hollie's Hotspurs live. It's been a little while. I have been in Benidorm, but I'm back now to talk about transfers. So I'm glad to be touched back down in the UK. And we have a lot to discuss tonight because there's been a few developments since I've been away. And to do so, I am joined by three fabulous guests. So first of all, we have Jay returning once again. Jay, how are you this evening?
Yeah, all good, all good. Ready to talk transfers. It's nice when Spurs aren't playing because it's normally nice stuff we can talk about. So.
No, you are right. It's rather than a therapy session, we can actually dissect different innings and outings. So it is quite nice, like you say, Jay. And I'm also joined by Wes, the man of MK, with his massive trophy. He's got more trophies than Spurs at the most. So Wes, how are you, my friend?
Did you mean this one?
That one.
Yeah, really, really good. Thank you. Obviously had a lot happening and going on over the past sort of couple of weeks. Or so, but yeah, really, really looking forward to talking transfers. I love talking transfers and playing recruitment in particular. So, and it's linked to Tottenham, so what's not to love? But yeah, really looking forward to this one tonight.
Good. It's good to have you on, Wes. And I'm also joined by George again tonight. George, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm very good. Very good. Been working a lot recently, so it's nice to have a little break and chat about Spurs. And hopefully let's be positive in, best we can.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, like I say, sometimes Spurs and positive don't go well together. But I feel at the moment we're being a good mood. Before we kind of start, it's actually gone at the moment, but I know that Carl has just subscribed again with a member subscription. So big up, Carl. Thank you very much. All your memberships help me. I think Carl is probably the longest standing, and as Jay as well, are the longest standing supporters of the channel. So thank you very much. And welcome to everybody that is joining as well. So let's kick off because there is a permanent deal that has been made. And Wes, I'm going to start with you first. And that is that the ginger from Sweden is officially a Tottenham player.
Yeah, as another song goes that we got on the go at Leeds away is I don't want nobody, I want Dejan Kulusevski on the wing. Really, really happy, I think, with this one. I think Levy, rightly or wrongly, at times gets criticised for the way he does transfers and the way he goes about it. But I think with this particular one, you can't argue with him on it. I think the way the deal is structured, I mean, I don't know how he's managed to pull it off, to be fair, because obviously it's being paid and spread over, a good few years. I think we're getting a player at a really, really good age. I think for us as well, he knows the club, knows the Premier League as well, which is a big, big bonus. So, as we're coming into the new season, it's not going to take him, any time at all really to come in and get settled straight away. He's going to come in, hopefully, continue the good form that he had shown at times, I think, under the previous regime. I think, the way that Postecoglou's going to hopefully have the team playing, we're only speculating at this stage, should be able to help him and give him a little bit more freedom. I think we've seen him almost playing a little bit more infield towards the back end of the season, and he did look okay. I think there was glimpses there where you could go, right, well, Decky could potentially be a number 10. He picks up good space. His links play well with those around him as well. But yeah, really, really excited. I think if it was any Spurs fan, you'd go, just sign him for the song, to be fair, just so he can keep singing it. But yeah, I think, like I say, really, really good signing, good age profile of a player, and to get him relatively cheap in today's current market as well. Props to Levy on that one, because he has pulled off a little bit of I wouldn't say masterstroke, but he's pulled off a very, very good deal, I think, for us on that one.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll come to you, George, about the price, because obviously when you start hearing that Daniel Levy's haggling with a packet of chips and this, that and the other, you kind of think to yourself, oh, hang on a minute, I don't want to go down this route again. But props to Levy, and I don't think I'd ever say that, but he has done well to get this one over the line.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried at first when it first came out because it just seemed like the typical, Levy Spurs situation where we're going to be haggling for the price for God knows how long, and then the deal might not even get struck. I think that's what worried me at the start, and it's just like we have such a talented player at our club. Like I just wanted to see it go over the line, but fair play, he's managed to shave some pennies off and extend it across, what was it, like 6 years or something like that. So, I mean, good bit of business for a quality player, and I feel it's a bit. It does annoy me a little bit when some fans sort of put down his ability because of what's happened in the last year. And I think you're not really looking at the context of how poor the whole team has been, except for Kane, really. I mean, Bentancur until his injury, but got a very long-term injury in that case. And then Kulusevski, still at the start of the season, he was still picking up assists here and there. He was still getting involved. I think the injury hampered him big time because to me, he didn't look anywhere near as explosive when he came back from that. It almost seemed like he was nursing it a bit. I think Ryan Mason actually confirmed it towards the end of the season that he was nursing his injury and getting back to full health. So I'm just excited to see him, man, because that first 6 months we had of him was such a good, talented player, and for the price, it's just can't complain at all, really.
No, 100%. And I think he just offers something different down that wing, doesn't he, Jay? Like, I know both the boys have mentioned that the fact that he hasn't really done very well towards the end of the season, but I think that was evident, like George has mentioned again, about his injury.
I think for me, the best thing about Kulusevski is his physicality. You sign quite a lot of wingers, and you see quite a lot of wingers come over to the Premier League, and the number one thing that they struggle with is the physicality of the league. And I think that's something that he's just come in and he's just taken with both hands, and he fitted straight into the team. So yeah, it was a logical choice. Everyone seems to like him. The fans liked him. I can imagine going into the season, if we hadn't have re-signed him, it would have probably started off on a bad note, depending on how the rest of our window went. So it was probably from a fan's perspective, we were probably thinking this is the easiest deal to get done. Get it done, Daniel, and then we can focus on next year and well, not next year, all of the new players, because I know it's a new signing, and I saw some people moaning about it on Twitter saying this isn't even a signing. This should have been. It is a signing. When you loan a player, there is an option to buy, not an obligation sometimes. But yeah, I think it was a good one to get over the line and gives us, as fans, a little bit of confidence going into the window that we might see some actual changes for once. Dare I say it out loud?
Don't say it too soon, because I'm touching wood right now. But no, you do make some valid points in the sense that, like you said, we've been wanting this deal to be done, and now it's finally done. We can actually try and crack on with business. And I don't want to bring up the past with the last transfer window. We were all hopeful this was the best transfer window we were going to have, but I think now we're kind of not seeing it with glazed eyes, in a sense that we actually have stuff to do this season, and we need to start doing it now. Jay, I'm going to stick with you for this one, because obviously this is about goalkeepers, and I know that is your forte, to say the least. And the one man that you've backed to the high hills is probably going to be leaving us soon, and that is Hugo Lloris. And there are rumours out that he is looking to leave for Inter Milan, apparently. So what are your kind of thoughts? I know you've spoken before, but give it to us again.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've said, I've been Lloris's biggest defender since the Brighton game all those years ago, and he's never been the same goalkeeper since. I've always still stated that he's a World Cup winning captain. Okay, he didn't play, he made the mistake in the final, but he was still amazing throughout the tournament. But yeah, obviously it's sad to see him go. Definitely the right time. I reckon if we'd held on to him another year, everyone would, probably just be fed up with him. But yeah, no, it's just for me, I think it's time for him to go. I don't see the Inter move being right for this time in his career. Obviously, it depends on the Onana situation. I don't really see how that's going to play out, because obviously Chelsea haven't confirmed who their new number one's going to be yet. Obviously, if we leave the race for Raya and they take Raya, or whether they want Onana, because obviously that's what's been floated about. But yeah, I don't see Inter being the best move for him. If I was him, I'd take that Saudi money and get gone. So.
No, I think you're correct. I think we just need to move on with Hugo now. I think we all were under the illusion that an understudy to Hugo was going to come in and Hugo was going to learn the ways from the person that was coming in. But obviously that isn't going to be the case. I mean, Wes, obviously there was word about David Raya, but obviously Brentford don't clearly want to lower their price. So do you think that kind of ship sailed now?
I mean, in football, you can never say never. It almost listen, from a Tottenham point of view, it stinks of, right, well, if you're going to play hardball, we'll go elsewhere until, we feel the time is right. And I'm almost with Spurs on this one in the sense that why pay 40 million for a goalkeeper who's got 1 year left on his contract? Doesn't make sense. I know there's been a lot of talk, especially on the kind of Twitter sphere, if you like, about David Raya. But for me, when I've watched him, I haven't been overly convinced by him. I think, he doesn't command his box well enough for me as a goalkeeper. And I think in the Premier League, I think that's probably more important. I think in other leagues across Europe, you can get away with not being as a commanding goalkeeper and not being so much of a presence. And I definitely felt that in the game towards I think was it our last home game of the season when we played Brentford, I want to say. That was kind of like my take then, and I'm there like watching him almost scouting eyes on, going like, right, this is my one window I get to see David Raya. What's he going to produce for me? Yes, he's very, very good with the ball at his feet, and that is a modern day attribute of a goalkeeper, 100%. And yes, he did pull off some really, really good saves towards the end, but I just think there was just something there for me that didn't quite click for David Raya. And listen, this young Italian boy Vicario's come in with glowing references. I have to confess, I don't know anything about him, but when you get references from one of the best goalkeepers of a generation in Gigi Buffon, and then you get a Mourinho reference. And you get the Mourinho stamp and seal of approval, that usually means something. And Mourinho is very rarely wrong when it comes to players. For what you can say what you like about Jose, but he knows people and he knows personalities, I think, probably better than most in the world of football. And to get a reference, and a glowing one at that, from Mourinho, I think speaks absolute volumes. And yeah, it could turn out to be an absolute steal with regards to Vicario, but I guess it's a case of we'll wait and see on that one.
And I'm glad you've mentioned it. It's moved in very nicely to the next conversation I'm going to have with George, and that is Vicario. Because, like Wes said, it seems like we're going off the scent of David Ryan. We're going to go for Vicario. So, what's your kind of initial thoughts on him? Because I don't really know a lot about him. I'm probably on the same page as Wes, as in I only know the glowing reviews he's kind of had. So, what's your kind of take on him?
Yeah, I mean, a similar sort of boat to you guys. It was like I didn't know who he was, so obviously I do what I normally do, and then I spent the next few hours until like 3 a.m. just trying to find as much information as possible about him. And to be honest with you, like everything that's come back has been, it comes back that he's almost identical to Raya when it comes to statistics. And now I'm always the first one to say that statistics aren't everything. You still have to watch a player to see what they're really like. But at the end of the day, we are sort of heading down this data-driven route that the likes of Brighton and Brentford are doing. And to be honest with you, he passes with flying colours. And I was trying to test it against other goalkeepers throughout Europe in the top 5 leagues, and he was still one of the top ones. So I think the problem with a lot of fans at the moment is that if you've never heard of them before, you're then automatically assuming they're crap, and then you're saying that all over social media, saying that they're crap, when in reality, there's been a lot of posts since from Italian fans saying that they just could not believe the ignorance of us English fans, and that pretty much every single one that's been posted, they've all said that he was the third, if not second best goalkeeper last season in the Serie A, which is pretty insane from someone that we've never heard of. He definitely is able to collect the ball in a box a lot easier than, sorry, should I say, not collect the ball. He meets the ball in an area a lot more than Raya does, a lot more commanding, like Wes is getting onto. So that's a good sign. The only issue I have with him from every clip that I've seen, from every stat that I've looked at, is that he does like to parry the ball a lot, which can be very scary when it comes to a Spurs defense. So I can't lie, that's the one attribute I'm not looking forward to, but his save ability and the fact that the way he plays with his feet is very good as well. The data in that situation can be skewed as well, because the way Empoli play is just very direct. A lot of long balls to the forward line is what he's known for doing. But a lot of the Italian fans have put us onto the games against like Inter Milan or Fiorentina, and in those situations where those sort of the better teams in the league they end up pressing really high, you actually get to see a lot of those moments where he is very comfortable with the ball at his feet and he's chipping them to either the centre backs or the full backs. So it looks like he can do it, but at the end of the day, I think we just sort of have to wait and see, I guess, how he adapts and whatnot. But like a final thing on that, I think Ange has made it very clear that with all his players, it's not just their abilities, it's about how they are as a person. And again, it's all sort of glowing reports on Vicario's end. I mean, supposedly he's hosting Ukrainian families in his household. So if that is true, then he seems to be a wonderful person as well as a great character as well as a good footballer. So yeah, I think we're just gonna have to wait and see and hopefully prove that this data method is correct.
Because like you said, it seems like it's the new approach we're going for. And Jay, I know you've mentioned before in terms of, I wouldn't say a snobbery, it's more of a, we turn our nose up at everything that isn't a player we've never heard before. And I'm probably granted to that as well. So with that, with what Georgia says, what Wes has alluded to, and your own opinion, what do you kind of make the transition from moving from a Premier proven goalkeeper to one that we've never really heard of?
Well, I'm going to throw you under the bus a little bit here, because the first thing I heard of him was you showing me a compilation video of all of his awful saves that someone had put into a compilation and put on Twitter. So, yeah, the first impressions weren't great. But, yeah, like George said, just a little bit of research into him actually as a goalkeeper. You'll see that, you know, he's not playing in a top 6 team. So he's not going to, you know, he's going to be facing double the shots of any of the goalkeepers in the top 6 in that league. So there's double the saves, but also double the chance that someone can clip it and put it on Twitter when you make a nice little parry and palm it straight to the striker. But what you don't see is the 10 saves he's made beforehand. And also the thing is as well, I obviously, when Ange came in, I was a little bit cautious, but I'd like to think, like most Spurs fans, I'm just here to trust the process in the sense of if we want them and it's going to be a rebuild and he might be rubbish for a year, then, you know, we're just going to have to put up with it this year. I feel like this year is just going to be, it's going to be very, very weird. It's going to be, I don't think, you know, if people think we're just going to bounce back and be top 4 again, I don't think that's going to happen. But then I'm also prepared for that. And I think getting in players that have got potential, that have got these reviews, like you said, you know, to you know, for Gigi to say that about him. If Casillas had said it, I would have, you know, taken it more literally, because he's a much better goalkeeper than Buffon. But, you know, if to get that review, you know, that's all you need to know. But he's just got to prove himself. But I know there's everything on Twitter is, you know, there's people, he's at the airport, he's, you know, the medical's being done. I'd still love it if we got Raya for 30 million, just like this was all a power play to get Brentford to put their price down. Vicario's actually in London because he's going to go and sign for Watford next season, not for us, you know, like it's an absolute power play, you know, like it's a reverse Willian. We paid for his plane to get to London and then we're just going to sign Raya because Brentford realised that Chelsea won't want him because they're going to go for Onana probably. But, you know, Levy 1000 IQ plays and all that.
Oh my days! But no, I don't know if we've gone that far. I know that Levy's got some big brains up there sometimes, but I don't know if he's got that in him. But in terms of Vicario, I think you were right. I think I definitely did him a dirty just watching. It reminded me of Aurelio Gomez. It was giving me nightmares.
That's
of
exactly
him
what
it
you
said.
To be fair, if we watch Larissa's one from this year, it'll be about 10 minutes long. So
I suppose it swings in roundabouts. But no, I'm quite excited to see if Vicario does come. Like we said, it looks like it's done. It would just be interesting if he can live up to the good high praises he's been given. But let's move on to defenders, because that's another shocking place that we need to try and sort this transfer window. And first of all, I want to talk about Speedy van der Ven, Wesley, and that is the centre back at the back from Wolfsburg. And I think we're going in, or Wolfsburg won about 26 million. So what are your first thoughts on him? Because again, I've done some Googling, but your knowledge might be a bit better than mine.
Yeah, only through Football Manager, I'm not going to lie. A bit like the other boys, I'm assuming. Yeah, from what I know of Mickey, I think Liverpool were interested in him not that long ago. Left-footed, which is gold, let me tell you. Left-footed centre-backs are so rare. And I think, obviously, from Liverpool's point of view, they were looking at potentially partnering him with Van Dijk. which then you look at it and go, well, there's quite a nice little Dutch connection going on there as well. But yeah, from what I know, aggressive defender, can bring the ball out. I mean, he's Dutch, so he must be able to play a little bit. Anybody knows the Dutch defenders know what they're like. And yeah, obviously, I think everybody's seen the clip on Twitter. Is absolutely rapid. You know, when he makes that goal saving block, pretty much. But yeah, if he rocks up, I don't think you know, I'm going to be too annoyed, because not only does he fill a gap for us, but I think, you know, in today's market, 26 million for a centre half is absolutely nothing. And I think it would be good to get another left-footed centre back in. I think, obviously, with regards to Longley, a good player, just too slow for the Premier League. Lovely on the ball. Not a bad looking git either, I have to say, Clement Longley. But yeah, just too slow. And I think there's times where he gets caught out, especially with balls over the top. And I think if anybody watched the game against Preston, I know he's alongside Sanchez, but my goodness, if it was me in the Preston dugout, I'm saying just stick it on him and Sanchez, and to be fair, all of our back three didn't have a clue that night. But yeah, I think he then automatically becomes a bit of an upgrade, I would say, on Longley, and has got a little bit more growth in terms of his potential, I would say. I think he's probably got, like I said, a slightly higher ceiling. And yeah, I think, you know, could also help us transition from a 4 to a 3 in game, which is really, really important as well. So yeah, I'm fairly excited about this one, I have to say. So yeah, roll it. Run with it. Let's do it.
I mean, that's the thing as well, because obviously with Longlet, we still haven't managed to seal the deal. I mean, Jay, I'll come to you quickly. With obviously, Wes said about Lenglet, the fact that we're probably not going to probably see that over, and Van der Veen will probably do a better job, to say the least, with his pace. Are you happy with that kind of move to happen if it does go ahead? You're muted, Jay.
1,000,000%. Yes. I would say, you know, again, going back to what I said about this rebuild, I will take the younger, higher ceiling player every time at the minute. For me, you know, we've tried proven players. It hasn't particularly worked. We've tried players that have incredible compilation videos on Twitter. Doesn't really work. You know, I think we just need to go for, you know, young and actually practice what we preach and dig in and let these players grow and let them make mistakes the first season. But then hopefully we'll see the players that they are. For me, the Bundesliga is the second best league in the world for competitiveness. A top league, because obviously the championship's incredibly competitive, but you know, for me, Bundesliga is the second most competitive top league. So to play there and to be the physicality of the German game, I would probably say he'd probably be a lot more suited to playing in England. So yeah, I'm all for it. With Longlet, yeah, like Wes said, he's slow, and I think he's already reached his peak. So there's no point getting a player that's already only going to decline, really. So yeah.
And we've spoken about having a good, obviously, atmosphere in the dressing room, maybe bringing in Longlet. Okay, yes, he's got that ability, he's been there, he's done it, but I don't think we need sentimental value anymore within his team. I mean, George, again, he's only 22, this Van der Ven. We've mentioned his pace. Is there anything you'd like to add to the conversation of Van der Ven, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the actual guy himself, I'm not too familiar of, but that profile I think is exactly what we need. The fact that he's very comfortable to play left back as well as centre back is probably going to be crucial in this forward-back system, because we all know that Angie likes to play these inverted fullbacks, whether they come into central midfield and are able to play. And I think, as much as I love the look at Destiny Udogie, we just simply don't know yet if he's able to do that back four very comfortably in the Premier League, and he's also a very young player. So I think with the outgoings that are expected, with obviously Longley already gone, we're probably going to look to sell Davis, Reguilon, even Sessegnon. Realistically, as much as people haven't been saying it, we do need a left back in the team as well, even if it is just backup or rotation to Destiny. So I think it's great that he can play both, because I think, like Wes said, you can go from a back three to a back two. He can play left back. He can play centre back in certain games, especially if there's injuries. It makes a lot of sense. He's a Dutch under-21 international, so you'd like to think with a bit of development, some Premier League minutes, that he will be looking to get towards the main team. So I think it makes a lot of sense, but I do think the fee is inaccurate. After looking, it just seems like they've plucked the fee from transfermarket.com, and they're normally a lot lower than what it ends up being. And I think Liverpool were quoted around 40 million euros. So let's say 35 million pounds is probably going to be more accurate to the price it costs. But look, at the end of the day, if we're saving money on this Vicario deal instead of getting Raya, if we've obviously saving money on the Kulusevski deal, if that means we're able to get a much better centre back alongside hopefully another one, in which in my opinion should be Tapsoba, then I think that's a brilliant start to the rebuild in defence.
And I'm going to stay with you, George, because you've just mentioned the next name on the list, which is Tapsoba. So I'm going to let you lead on this one. So what's your kind of takes on this one? I mean, he's only 24. He is from Bayern Leverkusen. So with that in mind, what do you kind of take from him?
Yeah, I really, really like the look of him. He's only 24, but he's been at Bayern Leverkusen, I think, for 4 years. So he's played at a very competitive level for a while now. And I think what I like about him the most is his confidence with the ball at his feet. I think he's taken on players a lot, which is sort of exactly what we need at the back alongside Romero. And we all know Romero likes to be a bit aggressive here and there, but having a centre back that is very comfortable on the ball is great. And not only that, I think even though he is right-footed, he can easily he has played left centre back, he plays right centre back, he can play in a back three. So again, we're talking about the versatility in these players. And I think if you were to sign Van der Ven alongside Tapsoba, then then any of them can play across all three positions alongside Romero. So whether there's injuries or, I don't know, maybe there's rotation between games with the cup games and whatnot, you'd like to think that there's quite a high quality that we still have between those three defenders.
Definitely. And I think, like you said, it's the versatility. And we kind of missed that in the back with obviously Dyer and Sanchez, and the list goes on. But Wes, what's your kind of thoughts on Tapsoba? Have you done much research into him? Do you know what's going on? I mean, I'm going to be personally honest, I haven't. Right. But that's why I got you guys.
Very, very quickly, I'll be back in a sec. Just got a bit
no worries.
I've signed him a few times for the manager, I have to say. And yeah, he did all right for me, to be fair. So I think George sort of hit the nail on the head there. And I think more so from our perspective with the back line, it's not a case of, yes, we do need defenders coming in, but I personally think we need to shift what we've currently got out. And I think that's arguably just as important, or if not more important. But yeah, I think if he comes in, as George said there, alongside Big Mike, as I'm going to call him, I think it's a promising start for the back line. It then becomes and feels, a lot stronger. And actually, if we are rotating, it's not a massive drop in quality, I think, like we've had previously. So actually, if one is injured or suspended, or, as George said there, we just want to rotate for a specific opponent, which I think Ange is quite big on anyway, then, like I say, the drop in quality is not that big. And actually, we're not going to go into games going, oh my word, I can't believe he's playing. We're in for a long afternoon or a long evening kind of thing. So, again, another one that I'm excited about, another young-ish, sort of player coming into the building. Really, got good glowing references throughout his time in Germany. I believe he's an international as well. I want to say it might be for Burkina Faso. So, again, big game experience of playing at a high level internationally. Featured in Champions League games as well for Leverkusen when they were in it, and played in Europe. So, again, another good young centre-back that comes with good pedigree. So, let's see if we can get them to done and over the line. But like I say, I think that the key for us is actually shifting what we've got. And seeing something from Paul O'Keefe earlier was a little bit of a slight worry, in the sense that we're struggling to perhaps find some suitors for the deadwood. But I think if we can shift a couple out and get them two in defensively, then I think we might be onto something for sure.
Definitely. I think it'd be a very good balance. I mean, Jay, as well, obviously, we've spoken a lot about the fact that there's a massive gap in defence in our starting 11 and, say, our subs bench. If those two come in, maybe one's a starter, maybe one sits on the bench, or like the boys said, they rotate. So what are your kind of thoughts on, obviously, bringing in the fresh blood in defence? Because we need it, I think.
Yeah. Well, for once, Tottenham are going to have a good, fast back line on FIFA. Oh, my God, what a day. You know, not that I play that dead game anyway, but yeah, for me, it's going to be the only downside I see of both of these signings. Maybe not so much Van der Ven, but maybe Tapsoba is play time. And, you know, he played 33 games for Bayer Leverkusen this season, you know, in the league, and only played 34 games. So, you know, they only missed one match. So is he going to want to, because I'm going to put this out there, Romero is our best centre-back. And, you know, he probably, I would like to have a left-footed left-sided centre-back. So, yeah, I think it will just be managing personalities. And I think that good locker room experience is going to be what we need, because if a lot of players, we're signing all these good players who are on the up, and then if they're going to be asked to sit on the bench for a bit, you know, it could cause a bit of trouble. And obviously, you know, Angie's here to bring good vibes. So, you know, yeah, it's just I love all these signings, and it does make you feel like you're playing Football Manager or, you know, career mode or whatever. But at the end of the day, these are people, and they have careers. And, you know, is it a better move for Tapsoba to come to us and play 50% of matches, or play every game for Bayer Leverkusen next year, be in the Europa League? I think they got Europa League this year. You know, and come and sit on the bench for Spurs, because Romero is going to start unless he's suspended or injured. So, yeah, that's if Ange doesn't mind playing a right-footed left centre back. But yeah, I think it's just going to be managing personalities will be the tough thing to do.
No, you make an interesting point, because I didn't really think of it like that in the sense of his game time. But then again, on the flip side, I suppose, does he want to stay there, or does he want to play for the best league in the world? I suppose that's the other thing he's got to kind of weigh up.
Yeah, but he's not going to City or United or Liverpool. He's going to us. So
yeah, that is also true. So no, you do make a good point. I suppose that is a bit of a downgrade, so to speak, where we are at the moment. But hey, he might be that determined to bring Tottenham up. You never know.
We've got a nice stadium.
That is true.
That's what they all say when they sign.
That is true, I guess. But also just sticking with defenders for a little while longer, because George, I've seen today that we're linked with Cameron Carter-Vickers again. We've only just managed to get rid of him, and now we want to get him back. What do you kind of take? I'm hoping it's just there to wind me up and it's not actually serious.
Trust Ange.
Yeah.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of. I feel like there's going to be a lot of us throughout this whole summer. If there's like players we haven't heard of, if there's players we've already had that never worked out. Look, I'm with you. I'm hoping it's just a bit of, you know, agent talk or whatever it might be, because look, I'm definitely all for him signing players that he thinks will work best from maybe the Asian market, where that's less known, that he knows well, whether that's players like Vicario that we don't know. I'm happy for that. I just think with someone like Cameron Carter-Vickers, yes, he's done well at Celtic under him, but when a player hasn't worked out at our club already for like multiple years, even with a new manager that has worked with him before, I just can't see that happening again. For me, it feels like it's almost then like the league difference, whereby Cameron Carter-Vickers, no matter what manager we had, whether it was Poch or whoever, like Jose, whoever since, he never cut it at Spurs and in the Premier League. So then I'm thinking, okay, you've done well in the SPL. Does that mean you're then going to come over here and continue that form? I don't believe it, but at the end of the day, trust Ange, man. Trust Ange. That's all I'm saying.
That is literally going to be our motto for the whole summer. But Jay, when you saw the news, I know it's quite like a small thing to talk about, but it just wound me up when I saw it. What's your kind of thoughts? Are you on the trust Ange process?
It totally contradicts everything I've just said about, you know, I'm ready for the rebuild next year. We wouldn't have released him if we didn't think he was good enough. That's where I'd stay on it, really. And yeah, he was good, but, you know, I'm going to cause some offence to my Scottish relatives, but he was playing in the Scottish League, you know. And I don't know whether the Mid-Solent is similar to the Scottish League, but I reckon I could do a job up there at left centre back maybe, but I'll have to wait and see. But yeah, no, I think it's just the media jumping on the Ange train of let's sign all of Celtic's players.
No, definitely. And I think Wes as well, like we've kind of alluded to, I think it's just that connection, and it's like, let's make a story because we haven't got a lot else to report at the moment.
Yeah, I think it was a slow news day in Scotland, to be fair. Yeah, I think Carter-Vickers, whenever I watched him in a Spurs shirt, I thought could be a half decent centre half, but not a Tottenham centre half. I think he's too slow. I think there's times where he gets caught. He gets caught out with the ball at his feet and got caught, turning in behind and things like that. I think no disrespect to the Scottish League because it kind of is what it is at this stage, but he only really needed to try for about a handful of games a season. Do you know what I mean? You turn up against the Rangers and things like that, the odd Aberdeen game here and there, and then in Europe, that's probably about it. He's probably afforded a lot more time, which is why I think he looked really, really good in the Championship, especially at Swansea and Bournemouth. I think where he's sort of 2 loan spells where he looked really, really good. But I think it's just in a league where he's afforded a bit more time, he looks half decent, but get somebody proper, up against him, and I think he struggles a little bit. And I think I didn't watch any of Celtic's games in Europe this season, but looking at some of the score lines, you're thinking that's a bit of a tanking. And I know the opposition is that level up and is that step up, but defensively you've got to be on your game. And I think the general feeling is that he's a really good centre back at Celtic, but it's one thing playing in that league, but then taking that step up into Europe and then trying to cut it in the Premier League, it's a different beast. And I think he definitely struggled with that, and you could see that he was just a bit slow. He looked a bit heavy, almost like a centre-back version of Tom Huddleston, just without the passing ability off both feet, I think. But I can't see that one happening. And listen, I think from a Spurs perspective, if you're shopping at Celtic, you're not going for Carter-Vickers, are you? Let's be honest. There's probably more people higher up the list. Kyogo probably being one. I know Jay's a big fan of Kyogo, if memory serves me right. I think, like I say, if you're shopping at Celtic, you're not shopping there for their centre halves.
No, 100%. Like I said, I think it's just a rumour that everybody's bored about, so let's just bring it up. But let's move on to midfielders, because George, it looks like the James and Maddison transfer is heating up, and I'm very excited for it, and I think most Spurs fans are excited too. So what's your take on James? Because I honestly think he did a world of good at Spurs.
He's, for me, I think is like one of the main, it has to be one of the main top targets, and I understand that. Obviously, centre back is a big priority because the defence needs changing. But look, we still haven't replaced Eriksen from when he left. We even had a chance to replace Eriksen with Eriksen, and we didn't do it. So we still need that number 10, that sort of attacking midfielder. And again, look, it's such a crucial position for Ange's system, because these guys, these attacking 8s or number 10s, however you want to call them, they're used to provide goals and assists. And I think James Maddison has both of those in his locker all day long. You've seen that with Leicester, and that's in a poor Leicester team as well. As well as that, there was obviously the only, I guess, not negatives, but what you could say is that, he hasn't been able to break into the England team. Yeah, those issues with not getting in because of Southgate. But look, he's getting in there now as well. So he still wants to be an England international. You've got the Euros coming up next year. He's 100% going to push a move to get back in the Premier League. There's no way he's going to stay in the Championship with Leicester. I know Leicester are playing hardball, but at the end of the day, they've got no wiggle room in this with 1 year left on his deal. So I'm actually genuinely really confident that we can get a deal done. As much as obviously Newcastle are, I guess, main rivals to try and sign him. They just spent 70 million on Tonali. They're after Livramento in defence now. I understand they've made the money at the moment, but at the end of the day, are they willing to splash another 50, 60 million on another midfielder when they've already got Bruno Guimaraes and obviously Willock and Joe Linton's doing well? I don't think that's a priority for them, whereas it is for us. So I think if we can be quite shrewd in our business, and as we were talking about the centre backs, get them on these better deals rather than getting a 50, 60 million centre back, then 100% we can go in for James Maddison, and I think it'll be the perfect midfielder for us.
Definitely. And I think when Bentancur's back to full fitness, Jay, I think he'll complement him very well. And the fact that obviously James looks like he's open to joining Spurs over Newcastle, because I think he said that he's preferred to be down south with family. So that being said, it looks like it could be in our favour.
Yeah, and the thing is as well is we're gonna have a midfield three for the first time in 6 bajillion years. So whoever we're actually gonna have a chance to see a number 10. I know I had a lot of, and I've been on this podcast many a time last season, having a gripe with people saying that we should sign Maddison when Conte was manager. And I was just saying, well, there's just no point because we can sign a number 10, but Conte's always going to play him in a midfield two. And he's never going to play in the 10. So what's the point? But with Ange, it seems like a great bit of business in the sense of if we get it done. However, I really am cautious of Leicester playing hardball and us then dragging it out and then it being similar to the Trossard situation where it seemed like he was coming our way and then someone swoops in when they realise what the price that Leicester are actually willing to pay is, offer Leicester the money, and then he's off somewhere else. But yeah, I think he's a good player. Obviously, you've got the old. He's going to have to go back and delete some of his tweets that he's done over the years. I know they did that announcement with Matt Doherty, but I think they might have to do that again with him. That's the only thing I'm a little bit concerned about. But professional footballers will play for anyone 9 times out of 10. It only takes the real strong-hearted to not play for a team they don't particularly like, but. He seems like he just wants to play in the Premier League. I'd be surprised if he picked us over a European club, but if he wants to play for us, I think Kane will be a factor in the deal as well. I think a player like Maddison would really complement Kane and give Kane a bit more freedom because I think Kane's problem is that he doesn't trust the players behind him to put the balls through, so he goes and does them himself, and then he just needs to pass them to himself. But with Maddison, obviously, he's got that ability, so he'll be able to thread those balls through to Kane, and he'll score 35 goals next year, sign a new deal, and win us 2 trophies. So, then he's the best striker. Then he's the best striker of all time, according to people, because he won a trophy. So.
I'm feeling a bit of a stinginess there, Jay, but you're right. I mean, I think with Maddison, it will open up Kane to be Kane. Kane is Kane anyway, but it allow him to have a bit more freedom to go do the business up top and get a few more goals. I mean, Wes, I want to get your thoughts on Maddison. Obviously, we've spoken about Leicester playing hardball, but it looks like they're willing to bring down the money that we're going to offer them. So in that respect, it almost seems like this could be heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I think if Leicester stayed up, this deal is a lot more complicated. I think we're trying to act now because Leicester went down and all of a sudden we're paying for a Championship James Maddison as opposed for a Premier League James Maddison, which is a completely different conversation, I think. Maddison adds near enough everything we've been missing. He adds creative guile. His eye for a pass is unbelievable. Goals, assists from that sort of 10 spot. I think Jay's right in the sense that he lifts a bit of a burden off of Harry Kane, who must have the world's worst back because he's been carrying us for God knows how long. And yeah, loves a free kick as well, by the way. We don't have many of those free kick specialists in the team. And he didn't mind the goal against us either, to be fair. So if we sign him, he ain't scoring against us. So I'll take that. Yeah, listen, I think as a person, don't get me started on him because I just think I wouldn't say he's a wrong un, but he's very, very sure of himself. But yeah, I think as a footballer, he's brilliant. I would put him up there in terms of probably one of the most similar sorts of players that we've seen to Jack Wilshere and whatnot in the way that he moves with the ball and things like that. Yeah, I think the whole him preferring to stay down south. Obviously, he's got a young family. Him and his partner have not long had a child, so I think obviously his preference would be to stay there. But I think if Newcastle do come knocking on the door with a Champions League football and the money as well that they can offer, I think it might be a tricky one for us. And I think I've said this before, if not on this show, on a different one, whereby Tottenham aren't in a position to chuck an extra 20-30 grand a week at somebody to almost as a sweetener for not being in Europe, like potentially Chelsea are able to, and things like that. So yeah, but listen, if we get Maddison in, I think every Tottenham fan is automatically buzzing, and I think it's a bit of a statement signing as well. A player of real quality coming in. I think we probably should have got him from when he was at Norwich, to be fair. because again, anybody that had seen him at Norwich knew sort of what he was about. I think the price then was, I think he went to Leicester for about 24 million, and Levy being Levy didn't want to pay it at the time, but we could have already had him and he could have already been doing the bits that he's been doing for Leicester, but in a Spurs shirt a lot earlier. So, but listen, if we're going to act now and if our time to act is now, then we've got to make it happen 100%, because he's a player that elevates the team. And all of a sudden, you've got other danger men. We've still got Kane, we've still got Son, we'll have Kulu, and then you add into the mix Maddison. You're looking at that sort of front line. You go in, it's a bit tasty. That I fancy watching this every week.
Definitely. I think that's the best way to look at it. I think it'd be a great bit of business if we do manage to get him over the line, and I hope we do. I just hope it works in our favour. Obviously, I just want to talk a little bit about Son. We won't dwell on it for too much, but he has come out and obviously said today that he's going to stop all the rumours of him going to a Saudi club, George, and that is because he said that he wants to stay at Spurs, and money isn't really a thing to him at the moment. And I think that is a testament to him. I quite like it when a player comes out and says, I'm not moving for the money, because nowadays that kind of is the way things are going.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think that shows a lot about his character as well, because he's extremely competitive. He loves Spurs, and I think he would almost be ashamed in himself if he left Spurs in the way that he did, because obviously it wasn't anywhere near his best season. To go from being a Golden Boot winner to we all saw him last year. It was far from his ability. I think he wouldn't want to leave on those sort of terms. And what I was quite surprised by, to be fair, and I've seen some sort of reputable like South Korean journalists say on Twitter as well, that what we maybe don't think about is the fact that he would not want to go play football in another Asian country other than South Korea. I think there's a lot of pride there, they were saying there, with him being South Korea's best player, probably Asia's best player, that he would not want to play in another Asian country other than South Korea, which I thought was an interesting sort of look on things. So yeah, he seems to just want to right the wrongs from last year, get back onto winning terms, playing some attacking football, get back amongst the goals, hopefully with Harry as well. And yeah, it was just really nice to hear him actually say that to the fans in the interview.
Definitely, because at the moment we're seeing that happen all the time, and obviously how he's been performing recently. I mean, I think many people are kind of saying, "Oh, maybe he could go," sort of thing. Maybe that's our I've forgotten his name now. Maybe that's our way. What Liverpool did with the player they did it with. I can't think off the top of my head. But it seems that it's not going to be the way. I mean, Jay, obviously the other player we've got to talk about is Harry Kane. The rumours bowing its head again that he could be moving to Bayern, but I think again it's another one of those rumours we see every year.
It's when the media are aboard in Scotland, they link a Celtic player to a Premier League club. When the media are aboard in England, they say that Harry Kane's moving somewhere. It's free clicks. It gets all of us in the comments arguing about it. Yeah, I don't think there's any truth to it. I still stand by he would have gone to City if he wanted to go. And I fully think that he'll definitely 100% play out this season, and I wouldn't be shocked if he signed a new deal. I wouldn't be shocked.
Well, even if he signed a deal that he's only got 1 year left, do you reckon he's just going to stay at Tottenham?
Well, that's what I mean. I think he either stays out, he stays here for the year, and then goes on a free at the end of the year. From a business perspective, I think it's obviously awful, but I think I can't remember who was on the podcast last time with me, and they made a really good point. It was like, okay, we sell Kane for 80 million, but if Kane gets us Champions League football this season, then that's the 80 million that we would have sold him for. We didn't lose, if that makes sense. So he goes on a free, but we're back in the Champions League. So, and it'd be great for his legacy, and I don't think anyone would hold him against him. To be fair, if he left now, I don't think anyone would hold it against him. But yeah, I've just got a gut feeling. I had the gut feeling that he wasn't going to go to City when it was like pretty much here we go. I just had a gut feeling that he wasn't going to go, and now I just kind of he seems like such a nice guy. You don't see it in football anymore. He just seems like such a genuine guy, and I do think he'll consider his family. He'll consider all of these things, and yeah, I just don't think he'll go this season.
No, 100%. And David's kind of said the same thing. I mean, Wes, without dwelling on it for too long, are you kind of on the same kind of boat that Kane ain't going anywhere?
He's not going anywhere. I've said this. Everybody asks me this all the time. Even when he's heavily linked to United and City, I'm there like, he's not going anywhere. I'm telling you, because they got a deal. First, they got a deal with Daniel Levy, who's an absolute nightmare. And then when you speak to people about it, then they go into this whole style of play thing, and then I back to them. Well, put it this way: if any other team, if you was to say to them, you have to sell your best player, would they do it? The answer is then people just say to me, well, no. I said, well, why are Tottenham going to do that with Harry Kane then? He's 100% staying. He's going to sign a new contract. It's just a case of when and not if. I don't think there's any rush from either side to, get it done. I think Kane's probably looking at this transfer window, and I think if Maddison does come in, then I think that's a big pull for him and a statement towards him as well. Going right, well, we're serious because we've brought in this player of real quality, and I think he then looks at it and goes, right, I'm actually going to have somebody who's on a similar wavelength to me, playing in the same team and in similar parts of the pitch. But yeah, I'm confident that he's staying. I was so confident he wasn't going to City because I knew the fact that if they waited a year, they'd get Haaland for half the price, and they get him for a lot longer than they do Harry Kane. I think, United are going to go for somebody a lot younger as well. And I can't see him going to Bayern Munich because I don't think they'll pay the money that Tottenham command. And yeah, I just think he's going to stay, and he's going to finish his career as a Tottenham player and break any more records that he fancies. Basically, he's breaking them all at the minute. Like he's going to do the weekly food shop. Do you know what I mean? So, he's a player that I think a lot of people respect and have a lot of time for. I think a lot of people want him to win trophies to go alongside all the other bits that he does. And I think until he does that, then it'll always be a case of what if with Harry Kane. But listen, I think he'll be a player as well that once he's finished, everybody, and I mean everybody, will appreciate a hell of a lot more than what they do right now, because I think he gets so much stick and actually he doesn't rise to it. He just gets his head down, does his work, and does it phenomenally. So yeah, listen, Harry Kane's staying. He's going to sign a thing, and we got some more years of Harry Kane, 100%.
Hopefully so. I hope that is the deal, and I'm sure it will be. But obviously, rather than talking about people staying, George, I'm going to come to you because there's going to be a few players that we definitely want to get rid of, and I think it was Wes or one of you guys tonight that have said obviously it's going to be quite hard to shift them at the minute. But who are the ones you kind of want to get out the door, because we've got so many loanies coming back?
Do we have time? I mean, there's a long list. I can tell you that for a fact. I mean, look, I think there's a lot of players at our club that have probably been here too long. I think what I love about Man City with their business, and I know that you can just argue they've spent a lot of money, but at the end of the day, they never sell. They always manage to get rid of the players at the right time. I think like Gundogan's probably a good example of that. Has done everything for them in the last 7 years, and even though he was still playing well this year, you just feel that this is the right time for Man City to maybe bring in a new midfielder and take a new direction. And I feel like we just didn't do that at all with the likes of, I think, Lloris, as amazing as he was early in his Spurs career. I think the last couple of years have just been really poor, and I felt like we never really planned properly for his successor. I know that he was claiming in his new 2-year contract that, I'm going to help the club find someone else, and it just never seemed to materialize at all. And same with the likes of Davis. As much as I think he gives maybe like a 6 to 7 performance every game, it's just he's been at the club for nearly a decade. It's too long. Same with the likes of Dyer. There's too many players that we've just kept on far too long, hoping that they're going to reach a certain level. But then even then, when who was it? I think it was Man United tried to sign Winks for 40 million or something like that, and we turned it down as well because we thought that we could maybe sell him for 60 in a couple of years. Like there's just little things like this where we're just holding on to players for far too long. And then Sanchez is the one that sort of upsets me because his first year I actually thought he was a very good player for us, and I think he just seemed to just deteriorate after that. And yeah, a lot of the defense needs to move on. I think other than that, the loanees at this point, because they've been away from the club for so long, we're trying to shift them on. Every year, we'd love to talk about Ndombele and Lo Celso maybe reviving their career. And trust me, I would love it more than anyone if Ndombele could come back and be the player that we thought he'd be. But at this point, 2-3 years down the line, however long it's been, it's just I can't see it happening. So I hate saying this, but I would love if we actually took the approach from Arsenal and just, if a player is too hard to get rid of, we just cancel their contracts, because at the end of the day, it's far worse just having them hang around, having them on the wages. I'd rather we just release them from their contracts and let them go. If the clubs aren't there to sign them, then there's literally no point having them around. So there's a lot of business that needs to happen on the outgoings.
Definitely a lot of chopping boards, and like you said, we keen to hold on to these players for far too long. They go past their sell-by date. I mean, Jay, I know that George has listed a few, but is there anyone on there that you think could salvage a career still at Spurs?
Jed, obviously coming back could be interesting. That right back position isn't tied down. I think the three of them, Porro, Emerson, and Jed Spence, have probably got an equal crack at the whip there. I probably, if I was to pick two of them to stay, those three, it'd be Porro and Spence. Emerson's done his compilations, and he's had some good performances for us, but he's been more of a meme player. Has Spurs put Reguilon now? I wouldn't be against a Reguilon resurgence, to be perfectly honest. He wasn't awful for us. He wasn't amazing. But he wasn't awful. And maybe under new management, more positive management, he might be able to flourish a bit more. Sessegnon, I've just seen in the chat. Yeah, he was a Football Manager signing from years ago. He's just never lived up to it. I've always wanted him to, but he's never lived up to it. Players we need to cash in on, definitely Gio. I don't know why we've not sold Gio yet, and all of the interest and everything. I don't think we should take as much money as we can for him now. I originally said that I wanted him to stay, but with Maddison coming in, and maybe give a couple of youngsters on the bench, like Alfie Devine and stuff, maybe get some game time. I think it's a lot of players to get out. Wes says he plays Football Manager, so he'll know how hard it is to get players to leave a football club, and how many of them will just sit on your bench and make the rest of your changing room unhappy. So there's only so many times you can send them to play with the under-21s before they come to your door and kick off. So I think that's going to be the difficult part.
It's definitely shifting these players out, and like we keep saying, it's because we hold on for them for too long, and then we can't shift them out. I mean, Wes, same sort of question to you. I know there's a long list of players we need to get rid of, but if there was one saving grace or a couple of saving graces, who would it be? Is it on the same wavelength as Jay?
Yeah, Reggie would be one for me. I think potentially, looking at Ange's Celtic sides, the fullbacks are fairly attacking. And I think that might suit Reggie perfectly. And I think potentially having him and Udogie as a sort of left side doesn't sound too shabby. I think it's more the player that I feel almost sorry for, or there's probably two, is Brian Hill, because I think there's a wicked player in there. And I would absolutely love to see him get a little bit of a chance in one of those attacking forward positions. But also Joe Rodon as well. Feel so sorry for him, because he was bought in, and we all know Mourinho was given him. He wasn't, his choice of centre half, if you like. But to be fair, I think when he's played, he's been chucked in at the biggest deep end of the biggest swimming pool you can find, and it's sink or swim. And actually, probably the Chelsea game away, and maybe Liverpool at home, were a couple of little mistakes which he got punished for. And you go into, I think the Liverpool one he did, the Chelsea one he didn't, but it was kind of at that where you go, okay. But I think other than that, I think when he has pulled on a Spurs shirt, I think he's looked all right. It's just one of those where I think he's come in to the club at just the complete wrong time. And I do feel sorry for him, because I think there might be half decent centre half in there. A little bit of a throwback in the sense that he will head it, he will kick it, and if it needs to go in Rose Ed, guess what? He's going to twat it into Rose Ed. But actually, he can play as well. So, like I said, I do feel a little bit sorry for him. But yeah, I just think he's just been really, really unfortunate. But yeah, I think Reggie's probably the one, I would say, out of all of the players that we've had out on loan, that I think more than likely will either stick around or have a resurgence, if you like, at Spurs under Big Ange.
Defo. And George, I asked you the crap question, so I'm going to come with you with a nice one and say, who would you like to have a resurgence at Spurs?
I think you guys are definitely spot on about Reggie, because the thing I never understood was I never saw him as a bad player. I mean, maybe I'm just looking at him wrong, wasn't looking at him properly, but I never saw him as a bad player. And I think he obviously, when Conte came in, he sort of, there were times where he would probably arrive in the right area, but his finishing was very poor, which obviously was not ideal for a wing back, especially when Conte came in. But the thing I found weird is the fact that he was just shunned off with the likes of Ndombele in separate training. I thought that was a bit peculiar, because he never seemed awful to me. But I think the fact that we're playing 4 at the back would suit him a lot more than definitely being a wing back. So maybe there's a chance from there. Maybe it's the case we don't get a left back, and we maybe try to move on Cess and Davis. I think Cess is probably the best one to move on, purely because he's probably got a lot more value in him than the other two. So yeah, I think there's potential for Reggie to get some game time or maybe improve under the new manager. But again, just echoing the other guys, I think Brian Hills is a great player there. Maybe we have to just loan him to Bayern Munich to get some, I don't know, whatever they give their players over there, some extra leg muscles and whatnot. But yeah, I think there was a moment in the game against Chelsea, which I think was Chelsea away, where I think he ripped Pulisic a new one, coming in and out of him and arriving in the box. So you can clearly see there's a very good dribbler there, and that's exactly what Postecoglou wants in his wingers, a great 1v1 specialist, which we don't really have many of. So I'd like to see him get a chance in the summer and pre-season, and then hopefully crack on from there. Otherwise, we probably have to look to bring in another winger too.
No, definitely. It's going to be, I want to say exciting times, but I feel like it's going to be very stressful times as a Spurs fan. Like we say, every year we're linked with different players, this, that, and other, and it never goes through. But I feel a bit more confident this year, especially having Ange, because I didn't think at the start when we got Ange that he could be the one to guide us, but I'm feeling more confident as each day goes on, especially if we get the likes of Maddison over the line. But it's been a great, I want to say therapy session, but we haven't had a game to dissect. So it's actually been a nice conversation tonight to dissect everything that's going on. There's actually 116 people watching, which is a bit of a madness.
Make sure you subscribe if you're watching.
Press the red button.
Yeah.
So yeah, make sure you do what the guys have said. There's plenty more shows coming up. Obviously, we've got a little while till the season begins. I've got a big show coming up next Monday. We have an ex-player on the channel that hasn't been, well, I say ex-player, he's still technically a player. So he will be on next Monday. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Before we get to that, though, I want to say a big thank you to everybody that's joined me tonight. So we'll go around in a circle, we'll say our goodbyes and where we can find everyone. So George, I'm going to start with you first. George, where can everybody find you doing your thing?
It is literally George Achillia across all platforms, whether that be TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. The YouTube videos have been very slow this year, but to be honest with you, like, regular life has been very hectic for me right now. And obviously put that on top of Spurs being terrible, there's just been a bad mixture there. So from this year, we're going to get back on it. More videos will be back. So yeah, just check that across all socials.
Perfect.
Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you. And also, Jay, I know that you've prepared a speech that's going to rival Wes's, so I thought I'd go with these first.
I haven't prepared a speech to put me on the spot like that. I've finally left the purple app of Twitch and moved over to YouTube. So yeah, you can find me on YouTube at JJ Season and Twitter at JJ Season, and yeah, just dank memes and just quality content. Maybe if you like balls, my channel is going to be the one for you. So
oh my days, let's not leave that one for the imagination. Jesus. But no, make sure you go and check out George and Jay's channel and Wes. I've left you till last, mate, because I'm so ready for this, and you better zoom in on the plaque, man. Far away, my friend.
Right. Let's start with Twitter. I'm going to try my best to make sure people can see it. So on the plaque there, it's got my Twitter handle, which is @Wezo10. And my mum made this for my birthday. So underneath has got the unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account as a little birthday present for me. So thank you, Mum. So yeah, Twitter, as it says there, at Wezo10, unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account. And then on Instagram at Wezo32, usually at Tottenham games up and down the country, because I haven't really got anything better to do. I have really, but I just enjoy watching Tottenham really every week, win, lose or draw. I run my own football coaching business, which is why I get these things, awards, MK Inspirational Awards for most inspiring male PT fitness and coach for 2023. So that is Kickoff Football Academy in Milton Keynes, helping young boys and girls develop and get better. Got lots and lots of things coming up, especially summer camps and things like that. I do have a podcast as well. WM32 Football Podcast is chatting all things football, taking a bit of a back burner at the minute because admin is going through the roof at the minute, but I'm hoping to get it back up and running again relatively soon. And yeah, I believe, Holly, that is it. And that
Are you
is a
sure?
wrap.
Is there nothing else you want to add?
Think so. I think that's it.
Oh,
But yeah,
carry on, go on. I
yeah,
interrupted you there.
no, I think that's it. Kickoff Football Academy. Across Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well.
Smashed it.
Forgot to put the socials in, but I think other than that, smashed it. It's a wrap.
Honestly, Wes, you kill me every time you do it. The fact that you've added stuff to it as well, I didn't think it'd get any longer. But there we go. No, thank you guys for everybody that's been watching. To the guys that have joined me tonight, like I say, tune in next Monday, same place, same time, where I'll be interviewing a player, which is quite surreal. But until next time, like we always say, come on, you Spurs.